I've studied nutrition my whole life. I went to school studying nutrition, and I've always been told that your blood sugar spikes dictate your energy.
I was going to ask about that.
Bro, no correlation with me at least. And I think everyone's different, obviously, but no correlation between my blood sugar spike or blood sugar dips and energy. None.
I noticed the same thing, or didn't notice.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, like the amount of carbs that I consume or the type of carbs I consume does not affect my energy levels.
At all.
If anything does affect my energy levels after a meal, it's the size or the bolus of that meal.
Yes, dude.
So if I eat a lot, I'm typically more lethargic.
Yep.
If I eat something less dense or light, it doesn't even matter if it's like more calorically dense, but volume wise, those larger meals knock me out. That's why after Thanksgiving, everyone's asleep.
Exactly.
You go to Terry Black's barbecue in Austin, you're asleep. You're in a coma.
Exactly. And that makes sense to me from an evolutionary perspective as well. When you're very full and fed, regardless of blood sugar, it's like, cool, I can relax. I don't need to be out searching for food. But like feeling relatively light, you didn't really fill up. Well, then cool. Then you have more energy to keep doing whatever you need to do. So I have the exact same experience where blood sugar did not correlate at all. It was also really interesting because the foods that were honestly like some of the quote unquote healthiest spiked my blood sugar the most, and the foods that weren't considered like healthy or clean foods didn't spike it nearly as much. The one that spiked my blood sugar the most was watermelon.
I saw that video.
Dude.
It was like 2 pounds of watermelon.
Yeah. It spiked my blood sugar the most out of everything. And I love, like, that's my main food. If I need to go on a cut, like if I want to lose body fat, that's my main carbs. Like it's one of my main foods. Fills me up. You can have like 140 calories for a whole pound of watermelon, and it spikes my blood sugar like crazy. But it fills me up. I feel incredible, and there's no issues whatsoever. But like, it's funny. Ice cream or even a Krispy Kreme donut didn't spike it as much as watermelon.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of caloric deficit were you in?
Severe.
It was?
You have to, especially, 5'3", 150 pounds or so. Like I have to be in a pretty severe deficit to lose 12 pounds in a month. So, I was close to like an 800 calorie a day deficit diet, like which was, not fun. I was pretty hungry, and it made it even harder because usually the things that would spike my blood sugar were very calorie dense, so that would take up a huge portion of my daily nutrition. It was not fun.
When you work with a lot of clients or a lot of people, do you get a lot of questions or pushback on fruit? Do you get people asking like, how much fruit can I consume because it's very dense in carbohydrates and sugar and all these things?
Yeah, so I get that not from my clients or members. It's more from people who are new to following me, because by the time they end up becoming like a member of my program, they usually know that. Listen, I always say all the time, how many people do you know who got fat from eating fruit? Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons people resonate with me and they want to do my program. But when people are new to following me and they'll see me in my story having watermelon or, God forbid, grapes. Grapes are demonized all the time, which is just so funny. It's like, it's fucking grapes. People ask that all the time. How much fruit can I have? I'm like, listen, I think you should ask fewer questions about fruit and more about like the lasagna that you're having every single meal. Like that's a big problem. Like if you're having pounds of lasagna every day, I'll never forget one of the things that I would do if someone was having trouble losing weight is I would have them take pictures of their meals for 72 hours and send them to me. Mm-hmm. And this person was telling me how many calories they were eating. And I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. Like, it sounds great. Can you just send me pictures of everything you eat? And they sent me pictures of their lasagna. And it was like on a lunch tray and I was like, how much of that? You're getting the whole thing. Like, okay, your calories are quadruple what you're saying they are. Right. And so, listen, you can't eat unlimited of really anything, but most people are not overeating fruit.
That's a hard part with people who start tracking calories, their macronutrients early on is, I think, portion sizes. Mm-hmm. I mean, even when I was tracking my calories, for example, if it's not an exact food item, it's not an apple, it's not a banana, it's not a piece of chicken, it's something that has multiple ingredients, like lasagna, for example.
Yes. Yep.
It's like, well, what is one serving?
It's tough. Yeah. And if you really want to be accurate, then you weigh each ingredient that you have, and then you put it all together. At least the way I would do it is I would weigh each ingredient, and I'd put it all together, and then I'd divide it up into however many servings it was, and now I had a very accurate idea of how much each piece was. But even then, it's not exact, right? You're never going to know to the exact. I don't want you to know to the exact calorie. It's more of a range, but it's. I think of it like when you're driving on the highway, you're not looking at the speedometer the entire time. You generally have a good idea of within a range of what speed you're going, within like 5 to 10 miles per hour, but you don't know exactly how fast you're going. And over time, for driving for years and years and years, you can know generally by how it feels and how it looks outside, like how fast you're going. Same thing with calories. You don't need to know every single calorie, but you do it for long enough, you're going to be able to look at a plate and know probably within 100 calories what's on the plate and how much you need in order to hit your calories for the day, or if you're going too far over or under. It's just, you don't need the precise. It's just a little bit.
Well, it's probably actually dangerous, and it's going to do more harm than good if you're trying to be exact.
Yes, agreed.
I mean, there's been seasons in my life where, like, if I was planning to eat 400 grams of carbs in a day, I was going to eat 400 grams of carbs. It wasn't $3.99 and it wasn't $4.01.
Yep.
Now I would do some crazy shit to make sure I hit 400 grams of carbs.
Yes.
Which it's kind of segues me into what I wanted to talk about next. And I think this is really relatable, not just to me, but other people as well. You had this post on your Instagram talking about you in 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
It was the IG mirror photo.
Oh, yeah.
It said like very low body fat, elite powerlifter, zero balance in life, not going out to restaurants, wasn't enjoying food, had missed a workout in over 5 years.
Yep.
But you felt miserable, chronically tired, hungry, anxious, never liked the way you looked. Like, what was the headspace, the mindset then? What happened? How did you get there? Mm-hmm. And then we can talk about kind of how you got out of that.
Man, there's so much that got me there. I think, so number one, like growing up, like as a young boy, I always wanted abs. Like I would always like look at the dudes with abs and be like, God, I want that. You know, I wanted to impress the girls. I thought that girls would like it if I had abs, and it turns out it's only other dudes that like it. If you have other abs, like girls just don't care. I had a severe disordered relationship with food from wrestling, cutting a lot of weight, really messed me up. And like you and I were talking about earlier, that was like the one thing I had control over. My life at home with my parents, my home life was not really great in terms of like my parents it was not a good marriage. They ended up getting divorced, which was a great thing when they finally got divorced, but home life was bad. So really the only thing I could control was my training and nutrition. And so to have complete control over that was freeing for me. And I also, when you're getting into the fitness industry, especially now getting into it, it's a little bit different. Back then in 2010, 11, 12, 13, if you weren't shredded, it was weird. And like you wouldn't have respect. And even now it still happens. Some people are like, do you even lift, bro? But like it was even worse then. And back then, for example, a lot of fitness professionals were doing photo shoots, and they would go through crazy cuts and crazy preps in order to look a certain way for their photo shoot. And they would take a year's worth of photos on one photo shoot. So then the entire year they could post all of these pictures on social media, but even though they didn't look like that all the year round, it would appear as though they did. So, and then on top of that, I was a competitive power lifter, and basically my entire life revolved around training and nutrition. That was all I thought about. It's all I did. So it also gave me
was it because you loved it, or because you were just all consumed
both
by it?
I think it started out as something I loved, and then it became something that I feared to let go of. It started out as something, I love this so much, this is the greatest thing, and it became something that became such a huge part of my identity that the fear of letting it backtrack became very scary and omnipresent in my life, in my mind. The idea of going out to a restaurant and not hitting my calories for the day was petrifying. The idea of gaining body fat was petrifying. So it was a terrible situation to be in, and it was crazy because while in my mind I'm suffering, I'm on the outside, I'm getting so much positive reinforcement for it. where people are like, God, you look good. I just want to look like that. How do I do that? You're so disciplined. And it was funny. People would pat you on the back and be like, you're so disciplined. Because I hadn't missed a workout for 5 years. And I wore it like a badge of honor. And people are like, I wish I had your discipline. And in my mind, I'm like, I wish that I could just like relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're giving me all this positive reinforcement, and my business is doing better because of all of this. So I had a financial incentive as well to keep doing it, because it's like business kept growing the more I did that stuff. So the idea of losing or gaining body fat or taking my foot off the gas was so scary from a mental perspective, emotional perspective, physical. It was I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. It was very difficult.
So what moment that you finally were able to say, okay, enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done killing myself, feeling crap and not living my life. There needs to be a change.
Yes.
Is there a breaking point?
There were a number of breaking points. I think, so the first breaking point was because I was binge eating like crazy. Wrestling created a terrible eating disorder where I was severely binge eating almost every day, if not every single day. And the thing about binge eating is like I looked like that. I was shredded, but no one saw me doing it because I would do it at night when I was alone, or like because I was living at my mom's place back then. I was trying to save money, and like she would go to bed and I would go in the kitchen and I would eat everything. And my mom, she just was like, oh, it's just like a young man just eating everything at night. Like, but she didn't understand what was actually going on. And so she'd wake up and the entire sleeve of bagels would be gone. Everything in the freezer would be gone. Like tubs of ice cream, like everything was gone.
Did you have like a go-to binge? I never struggled necessarily with binge eating.
Yeah.
But I had an eating disorder when I was younger.
Yeah. But
from people I've met, they've had like a go-to binge meal. Did you have a go-to, or was it just like anything?
Whatever was there. It was really whatever was there. I mean, if there was peanut butter, that was gone.
Like a whole jar?
Oh yeah. Like that on bagels, gone. Peanut butter on bagels, and the whole sleeve of bagels would be gone. Easy. If there were like frozen French fries in the freezer, like making those, whole bag gone. Like tortilla chips, gone. Pretzels were gone. Like I couldn't have pretzels in the house because the whole thing would be gone. Those were the main ones. I was definitely more savory, and I still am, than sweet. I like salty and savory stuff as opposed to sweet.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. It's just like French fries and chips. Like I'm good. That's all I want.
Yeah.
But I was binge eating severely, and I was like 20, 21. And I remember after this one like horrendous binge, I just went into my bathroom at like, I don't know, must have been 2 or 3 in the morning. And, we were talking about feeling full. When you are really struggling with binge eating, it's very hard to feel full. And so you eat until the point where it's like, it's actually painful. And so I remember I was looking in the mirror, and I was just like, I said to myself, I looked myself in the eyes in the mirror, and I was like, that is the last binge I'll ever have. I'm never doing this again. And at that point in my life, I was intermittent fasting. But intermittent fasting, and it's not bad, it's fine if you want to do it. But if you have binge eating, it's a terrible idea. It essentially perpetuates the binge eating because you don't eat all day, thinking that you can eat more at night. And then you end up binging at night because you didn't eat all day. And then you fast the next day to make up for the binge at night. And it's a terrible cycle. So for me, I realized I was scared of having breakfast. I'm so scared of having breakfast because in my mind, if I had breakfast, then I was still going to binge that night. So I can't have breakfast. I have to fast in order to save room for those calories. And so I was like, my number one fear right now is having breakfast, which is logically so stupid because for years people have eaten breakfast and been totally fine. So my rule was I have to eat breakfast. Like that's what I have to do. And so the next day I had my first breakfast in years, and I actually posted it on my Facebook page. I was like, first breakfast in years. I didn't say like it's to recover from binge eating. I didn't tell people I was binging at that time, but I was like, this is my first breakfast, and I haven't binged since. And it was 2014, something along those lines. It was my last time I binged. It was the breaking point. Looked myself in the mirror. Last one. And thank God that's a blessing, because some people struggle with it forever and have trouble to overcome it. But that's all it took. Not doing it again, having breakfast, and I haven't been since.